you got to think that with Disney, with all the resources that they have, the fact that they own all their own lots, everything else, that they can take, if Blumhouse can do it on 5, Disney can probably take $10 million and still deliver very close to what we've been getting. What do you think?
Yeah, so, and that's a great point that I wanted to make, actually.
What's going on, film family? It's your boy CEO Haize, and I'm joined by my brother, the prodigal one, Mr. JayB. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, Haize? What's going on, film family?
So for anyone who has been listening to this podcast and who also listens to MBK, my brother's keeper, me and JB's other podcast, will know that I just drilled him a new asshole about his technology and not getting a new phone. He didn't get a new phone yet, but he did get a new microphone. JB, you sound wonderful. Go ahead.
I have a surprise for you.
Did you order the phone too?
I'm gonna show you right now.
Oh, that's the same phone. I can see. I was about to say I can see it before you showed.
I ain't never getting that shit.
But we're here today. We have we're gonna be doing. It's the first time us reviewing a fan film. We're doing 2 of them actually. We're doing Never Hike Alone, Never Hike in the Snow. But before we get into that, we got a couple of pieces of news like we like to do before we get into the review itself. The first one is one that we touched on briefly on MBK, but fuck it, this is a different podcast, so we're going to get into more in depth here. So Disney executive has said they're going to be focusing more on Disney Plus, more on streaming going forward, prioritizing it. So they're not completely stepping away from theatrical releases. And also, by the way that it was worded, it seems like they may just mean until the pandemic's over. Maybe that's what they mean. Some more news has come out that say Kevin Feige, who runs Marvel, has been one of the biggest people pushing back on Black Widow releasing digitally. But overall, it seems like Disney as a whole is going to be focusing more on that. Now, you know, I'm of 2 minds with it. Disney Plus, one of the biggest things that's been a problem there is the lack of exclusives. So if by focus on it more, make it more of a priority, they mean they're going to be bringing more exclusives to Disney Plus. You should have been fucking doing that when you decided to come out with a streaming platform. But you can a company as big as Disney in no way can completely ditch theatrical releases. So you know, there's you know, when a headline comes out, people start freaking out and taking it different ways. What do you think about it, JB?
So first and foremost, right? Disney's not going to ditch the other stuff. I mean, that's going to always be the moneymaker. But we have to look at the times we're in right now. We're in COVID times, coronavirus times. So is the big releases their bread and butter right now? No, it's no one's bread and butter. Yeah. So they have to figure out a way. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They have to figure out a way to still generate revenue. And obviously, if they're having success on streaming, then why not? I mean, I don't know the numbers, but you probably know. Mulan. Do you know what Mulan generated? How much money? Do you know that?
The last time I checked on it, which was honestly probably about 2 weeks ago, I think it was like 65, 70 million. Which
that's crazy.
That's crazy for streaming. I'm not gonna but the fact it was supposed to be a theatrical release. Go ahead.
Well, what I was gonna say was, forget about the fact that it's streaming. That's crazy considering a lot of people shit on the movie.
Yeah.
So just imagine how many people did not watch it because it got bad reviews. So were it like a big blockbuster that we're used to, they're gonna cross 100 million. And in these times, you can't be upset at that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that this Disney's probably one of the big. Disney and Universal have come out with basically their stance on streaming and the focus of it going forward. Universal wants to be able to release things as close to theatrical release on also streaming as possible going forward with all their films. But I think this is just going to be something we hear more studios do, even if they don't make an official announcement. You know, I think this pandemic has made the studios realize how reliant they were on theaters, and the fact that AMC is very close. They come out with even more numbers saying that they expect their cash funds to be completely depleted by the beginning of 2021. And we're not getting new movies till then. So how they're going to keep that afloat, who knows? But I think this is open eyes up to not only consumers but a lot of people that maybe these budgets of these movies that gotten completely out of control need to be brought down some, so that movies are more can be more profitable if it comes time that they have to focus on streaming. And that's what I think the biggest thing is going to be when we have these movies with these $300-400 million budgets. I think we may see that shrink down considerably. Like a huge movie now may have, if it gets $100 million budget, that has to be theaters. But when you see what like Blumhouse can do on $5 million, you got to think that with Disney, with all the resources that they have, the fact that they own all their own lots, everything else, that they can take. If Blumhouse can do it on 5, Disney can probably take $10 million and still deliver very close to what we've been getting. What do you think?
Yeah, so and that's a great point that I wanted to make actually. We're both financial guys, but even if you're not a financial guy, it's common sense. When your profits are being decreased, what do? You cut cost. Yeah. Whether that means laying people off, in this case, making a movie, you cut your costs. So that expensive CGI shit you were doing, gone. We can see we might go back to a lot of back to the basics stuff where a lot of these old school directors, it'll be right in their element because they're not used to CGI. They never really played up too much on CGI. Yeah. So I think a lot of things are going to go back to old school. So number one, like I said, get rid of the CGI and try to cut costs in every way possible. And for anyone out there who's like, oh, well, you can't make a movie and actually be successful on a smaller budget, tell that to Blumhouse. Mm-hmm. Tell that to the Blair Witch Project. Tell that to the Paranormal Activity guys. Movies can be made for not that much money and blow up. You have a good storyline. You have good acting. Hell, to be honest with you, you don't even really need good cinematography. Let's be real. Because all those handheld movies that make millions of dollars, that you can't say it's good cinematography. As long as you have a good storyline and good characters and good acting, that's really all you need. And that's it. So that's that part. Now, the second part you were talking about movie theaters, and I don't know why this didn't click back in the day. Mm-hmm. You know what movie theaters should do? And I bet you they would generate so much money. Here's the only problem, though. It's not a consistent weekly thing. It's going to be a once-a-month thing. And you know what they can do? Let's take it back to old school. I'm talking about 80s. And for those who don't know, you and I used to do wrestling podcasts. So I want to use wrestling for an example. Back in the days, in the 80s, how could you watch, for example, WrestleMania 1?
Pay-per-view.
No, there was no pay-per-view back then. Oh. So you would have to do it on closed circuit and go to a movie theater. So imagine they had UFC pay-per-views, big boxing pay-per-views, whatever you can think about, but bring it old school, buy a ticket for $20. Now it's a win-win. The movie theater's making money. Now those guys, the UFC guys, they're okay with that because normally they would sell a pay-per-view for $65. But in this case, they're not going to sell it to you and I. They're going to sell the commercial side of it. Just like if you go to like a Buffalo Wild Wings or something, how they sell them the commercial license. They sell it to the movie license. The movies make the killing. We're happy now because we go in a movie setting to watch this. And for me, it's a win-win-win.
Yeah. I mean, I think the key thing is like if we're just talking about how the movie theaters can be profitable, they need to find a way to air every fucking thing they can, whether it's pay-per-views, whether it's, independent film like we talked about before. Hell, rent it out to a damn film school. Let film schools air their movies out once a night, like a film school night, like whatever you want to do, grindhouse style. Like movie theaters, if they want to stay afloat until we get in, because it's basically all but confirmed we're not getting any major blockbusters now until 2021. Now, luckily, we're halfway through October, 2.5 months roughly left of that. Okay, you should be able to stay. Hell, at this point, rent it out to schools still having their concerts. Like, do something. But they need to be trying to find.
Well, you saw that AMC.
Yeah, that's the next thing we're going to talk about. AMC, you can rent a whole AMC theater for $99, which, I mean, bro, like I said, I've made this comparison before. For example, the Super Bowl. I know that the new year will probably start before we get that, but like, say me, you, Q, our families, whatever, rent out a theater to watch the Super Bowl and have like we can go and get their concessions and everything. Like that's more than worth it. Hell, we'd spend that much just trying to get food for everyone alone, so we can say, hey, everyone pitch in $30 or whatever. Every family show up at the movie theater and let's have fun. Hell yeah, who wouldn't do that?
And you don't even got to clean up.
Yeah, that too. You get the fucking leave, go home. Your house is clean. You don't have to worry about the stress because hosting the Super Bowl party is stressful.
Trust me, I know.
So, so yeah, there's a lot of different options. And then as far as like to get back into like what may happen. I love what you said there as far as like cutting down the special effects budgets need to be the first thing. Let's go back to practical. This is one of those things where seriously, I hope that we see a lot of horror movies because horror movies are perfectly set up and equipped for this shit. Their budgets are already low. They get huge returns in general. If you can stay practical on a horror film, you can do some shit. And then even like Brightburn. I don't know if you've seen Brightburn or not, but that was the if Superman was bad kind of storyline that came out, was the kid or whatever. That was.
I don't think I've seen that. I've seen like the Russian side of Superman, whatever the hell that was
called.
called.
It's not that story, but it's not actually Superman. That's just the best way to compare it. Is because the kid's an alien. He gets basically all of Superman's powers, but he's evil. It was a horror superhero film made by James Gunn, who directed Guardians of the Galaxy and Slither and stuff. But he,
I know James Gunn. Yeah.
Yeah. So he didn't direct it. I think he produced it. But that movie was made for I think $13 million. I know it was under $20 million. And while the special effects weren't the level of a Marvel, they don't stand out as being terrible. So like you can make the superhero movies too on smaller budgets. It's just and still get huge returns. That does nothing but benefit people. It makes creators try to work harder, in my opinion. It also puts people in jobs, like as far as creating movies and stuff. Like overall, I hope that we see a reduction in everything so that this industry can stay fluent. Because one thing, the theaters can go away. The movies are the production companies are always going to have a place to put their movies. So to keep theaters alive, something's going to have to give. But I guess we'll see going forward and how that continues. Bro, I got just one last piece of news on here before we go. We're horror films.
Can I just say one thing real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so again, just another really good point about the horror movies, because horror movies, universally, you don't really need a big budget for horror movies. You don't really see too much CGI and shit in horror movies. Mm-hmm. And, another thing, and I know we've mentioned this, I mentioned their name quite a few times, but there's a reason. You know who doesn't give a shit about any of this? Who probably has not even been affected even 1%? Mm-hmm. Blumhouse, because this is, again, I know we mentioned them a couple times. This is right up their alley.
Yeah.
Nothing has changed for Blumhouse.
No.
They're just continuing. Nothing has changed for them at all.
All 4 of their movies are now available on the Welcome to Blumhouse thing. I actually just watched one before we record. Evil Eye, really good for I
haven't seen that.
Just a streaming at home, like theater release. It'll be picked apart a little bit more, but the thing is, it's just Blumhouse makes quality stuff. They just make stuff that is just enjoyable. What was that?
I believe you said you were going to see Lit. Did you end up watching it?
No,
wasn't number one called Lit
yet.
Or something?
No, not yet. I haven't yet.
Okay.
Yeah. But all right. The second piece of news I was going to get into, and this is still in the horror realm and Halloween. We actually started this podcast originally as the Fear Frequency on a review of the Halloween series, Halloween Kills. Blumhouse. This goes back to Jason Blum. He has said that this movie will not be delayed. Come Hell or High Water is going to be released on October 15th, 2021. Now, by all accounts, movie theaters should be back open in shape, form, or fashion some way by then. But let's say this time next year, it seems like we're maybe in the middle of a spike. We're back to where we are now. I guess that means it's coming to streaming. What do you think about that? Them saying that it is not going to be delayed again. Either way, it's coming out October 15th, 2021.
Yeah, I believe him 100% because he probably figures like, hey, you know what? In terms of the shooting and the production, if shit does go bad, they can again take it back to basics, and they can do. Blumhouse is a genius when it comes to that. So he's not worried about, oh man, where are we gonna film, where are we gonna produce, but he's not worried about that stuff. Right, like in terms of whether it's gonna be streaming on the wide release, obviously Blumhouse, us, the actors, everyone wants to see a wide release. But if not, the second best thing is streaming. And like we mentioned when we were talking before, with Mulan, I guarantee you Halloween Kills makes more money than fucking Mulan. Trust me.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. People are really excited about this. I know you weren't the biggest on the reboot or whatever, but generally it seems like especially Halloween fans really appreciated that sequel. They've already filmed.
Yeah, and it wasn't terrible at all.
Yeah, they already filmed both. This one is Halloween Kills and the next one's Halloween Ends. We were actually supposed to be probably reviewing this one this week. It would have been out, I think, this week or next week. Halloween Kills would have been out, and then next year would have been Halloween Ends. But push it back. So yeah, I mean,
they filmed Halloween Ends already.
Yeah, they filmed them together. They filmed both of them together.
Oh,
So
I
they
didn't
filmed
know
them at
that.
the same
Okay.
time. Yeah. So they took care of the sequel. They wrote it, everything, and then they brought everybody back to film both movies at the same time. So as of right now, there's probably a finished version of both these movies just sitting somewhere in a safe at Blumhouse Studios.
Being watched.
Yeah. So I'm sure, the people at Blumhouse have seen this shit like 3 or 4 times, especially during quarantine. He probably just invites people over like, hey, you want to see the new Halloween movie? So yeah, I mean,
Exactly.
definitely excited for that. Yeah, that's it for news. I mean, there's some other things we could have talked about, but nothing major. I mean, more pushbacks, which we all expected. The movie news is so slow right now. I think the thing that really threw me off is they're expecting the new Doom movie to be the next $1 billion movie. And my thing is, like, how do you project anything to make $1 billion right now? Like, people aren't going to the movie theater. Go ahead.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I've never seen not even one of the Doom movies. I did like the computer game back in like Windows 95 days.
Doom. I love Doom the game. Yeah,
sure. I love that game, bro. Is the movie based on that, by the way?
It's based more on the novel than the game. So the game was based on a novel.
I didn't even know it was a novel.
You didn't know it was a novel?
No, I didn't. I thought it was a video game, and that's it. A video game. By the way, another piece of news. I'm not sure if you read this or not, but I didn't read the entire article, but I saw the headlines. Mm-hmm. And I know you're a comic book head, but they said in the new Spider-Man, they're probably going to have Tobey Maguire and what's the other dude's name?
Back. Yeah.
But Andrew Garfield, right.
And, that goes to what we talked about last episode, too, with the Jamie Foxx thing coming back. And Jamie Foxx was from the Andrew Garfield universe. So they're doing something interesting here. And Doctor Strange is going to be in it. Doctor Strange's next movie is the multiverse. So I really think that they're going to be bringing in multiple versions of different characters in here. Into the Spider-Verse was one of my favorite movies of last year. So if this is anything like that, if they're doing like a live action version of that, sign me up for it, because I liked all 3 Spider-Mans. Andrew Garfield was a terrible Peter Parker, but he was a good Spider-Man. When he put the mask on, I enjoyed Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. And Tobey, he's the first one. Everybody loves Tobey. So it'd be interesting to see them play off each other. If it's whatever they do there. So I hope that that's true. I hope that's true. I hope that they're doing something really unique and interesting with it. So
this has been a presentation of the Breaks Media.